Scenario 1 from the Health Mental Health America 2013. Nick will be feeling distress as he is clear to see during his games he will fall apart. The stress process may explain this as it has four parts. 1 is the demand, 2 is the appraisal of the demand. The third one is a negative response, the cognitive appraisal of the demand, and the fourth one is the stress response. This means that he will be suffering from distress, as he has an extreme form of anxiety, nervousness, apprehension, which is all different symptoms of distress, which shows that he will suffer from distress. This is because he is struggling to hit the shots he would normally be hitting in training, but he can't handle the game situation due to being in a high pressure environment. Eustress means it's beneficial stress, which is either physiological or physical. This normally refers to a positive response one has to the stressor, which can depend on their current feelings of control, desirability, location, and timing. Common symptoms of cognitive stress are the constant worrying of the inability to focus and have poor judgment. Common symptoms of somatic stress is pain and neurological symptoms such as headaches and fainting. Anxiety is a feeling of worriness, nervousness, or unease about something. There are two types of anxiety: trait and state. State anxiety is caused in a specific moment, which can change frequently, and there are two types of state anxiety: cognitive state anxiety and somatic state anxiety. Cognitive state anxiety is the mental aspect of the anxiety, and somatic relates to your perception of the physiological changes that are happening in that particular situation. Nick will be suffering from somatic, as he is feeling nauseous before the games. This means he also could be suffering with headaches during the games, as he never seems to apply the game plan. Trait anxiety is how anxious you really are, which is the negative response to your worries. It's hard to get an accurate measurement of anxiety, however you could see, for instance, how many aces he would hit during training and then compare it to the game scenarios which he seems to choke in. Arousal. Arousal is a physiological state of being awoken or the sense organs stimulated to a point of perception. It's also the energized state of readiness of the individual to perform a specific task. RAS is like a filter, so you can filter certain things you want to see and also filter out stuff you do not want to see. For instance, when taking a penalty, you can widen your filter and let some of the atmosphere get to you from the crowd to get you optimally aroused. However, it's important not to get too aroused, as you need to find the middle ground for you so you can take the penalty at the optimal arousal, as being over-aroused may harm your performance. Drive theory is based on that humans are born with certain physiological needs, and a negative state of tension is created when these needs are not satisfied. The graph shows that the higher the arousal of the athlete, the higher the performance of the athlete. However, this may not be accurate for inexperienced athletes, as if they haven't experienced a high-pressure situation in their sport before, they may fall apart like Nick does. And this can also come to a point of view where it's too much for even the most experienced athletes. An example of this would be when Gareth Southgate took his penalty at Euro 96, as the external environment, being the crowd, got him too aroused and caused him to miss the penalty. So this is not the best example and best theory, as it's not necessarily accurate to all athletes. The inverted U theory is where the arousal level increases, the performance increases, however only up to a certain point, beyond which, as after it passes its optimal arousal, it starts to become a negative thing. This shows when being optimally aroused is perfect, as it allows you to perform to your best. However, either side of this optimal arousal can have a negative effect, as being under-aroused can lead you to be not interested and not focused on the task in hand. However, being over-aroused will make you forget everything you've done in training and cause you to fall apart, which may also be what Nick suffers from, as he is desperate to be number one seed at his college. This graph is okay, however, your performance won't decrease in the declining arc. Catastrophe theory. Catastrophe theory is a relationship between the multiple levels of stress that develop into anxiety within the athlete and their influences during the competition. This means that if the cognitive anxiety is high, the arousal increases past the point of the optimal arousal, which leads to a rapid decline in the performance, which is known as the catastrophe. This is almost the moment where you completely flop, which is potentially what happens to Nick when he falls apart. A sporting example of this would be when Brazil lost 7-1 to Germany, as Brazil collapsed, which was the point of the catastrophe, as it was the final of the World Cup, which would have had cognitive and somatic anxiety, which means that they would have choked. The negative of this is that there will be no point which you reach suddenly where you completely crumble and forget everything you learned. However, it will be gradual instead. Stress. Stress is a feeling of emotional strain and pressure. Mental Health, America, 2013. Sarah will be feeling distress, as it's clear to see when her games fall apart during important games such as Lewis and Varndine, etc., as her scoring percentage go from 86%, which she has in training, to a very low 32% in these two games. This may be the case as these are two very important games for her, as she wants to score all of her shots that she takes, as they are very important games to the team and the college. May also be getting to her due to the fact that other members of the team may be giving her stick about it and aren't being very supportive, which could also be having a negative effect on her. Sarah could use the stress process to help her in these games, to identify the demand, the appraisal of demand, and the negative response to the cognitive appraisal of the demand, and the stress response. This could help her fight the extreme anxiety and nervousness that she faces. This is because she is getting a significantly lower scoring percentages in the bigger games against Lewis, etc., than she is in training. Sarah also needs to manage her eustress in this stress, as she needs to have eustress which allows her to perform better either physiologically or physically, as this is a positive response which allows her to perform to her best. However, she may be experiencing more, which is leading to the distress, which is causing her to get that much lower scoring percentage than she should be. There are two main stressor categories. There are the physiological stressors or the physical stressors. Somatic symptoms of stress can include such as low energy, headaches, and aches and pains. And for cognitive symptoms of stress, these include constant worrying, poor judgment, and the inability to focus, and racing thoughts due to the fact maybe other people in her team, such as Rachel, are not supportive of her and may make her stressed and worry about everything she does. Anxiety is a feeling or worry, nervousness or unease about something, which may have an uncertain outcome. The two main types of anxiety are trait and state anxiety. Cognitive or mental anxiety symptoms can be such as difficult to concentrate or always anticipating the worst outcome, and sometimes also mean the mind can go blank. This may happen to Sarah when she's taking her shots, as she may almost forget how to shoot properly. Somatic or physiological anxiety symptoms are, for instance, sweating, rapid heart rate, or tightening in the chest. Trait anxiety is normally a negative response to emotions which causes fears and worries to many situations, which may be due to people on her team, such as Rachel, who do not support her, may even make her feel uncomfortable, which would lead to her having these fears and worries. Competitive anxiety is when the demand of the sport is greater than the athlete's actual ability, which isn't the case with Sarah, due to the fact that she has proven herself, due to the fact that she has got an 86% scoring rate in training. So it's not competitive state anxiety, even though she is getting 32% in her games. However, in these games she is getting an uncontrolled anxiety. The factors that could affect her anxiety during these games is that the college often schedules the crunch games towards the end of the season, which means many spectators come and watch. This would be a negative for her, and would cause her to have more anxiety due to the fact that there is other people watching her, which means she may feel she has to perform well. Also, Rachel has not been very supportive and doesn't understand Sarah's poor performances in these crunch games, which would lead Sarah to feeling uneasy about some of the members in the team and may get her thoughts racing about what they are thinking of her during the game. To measure anxiety, there are it's still hard to do, but there's two main ways you can do this. Firstly, you can do the state anxiety scale, which can be done by asking the respondent how they feel right now and seeing if they feel any feelings of nervousness or worry, etc. Or you could use the T anxiety, which is the trait anxiety scale, which evaluates the confidence and security and calmness of the performer. Arousal. Arousal is a physiological state of being awoken or a sense of organs stimulated to the point of perception. Continua or RAS is like a filter which you can filter stuff in and out or zoom in and out of the situation you're in. For instance, Sarah should be looking to zoom in more when taking her shots, due to the fact that she may be taking in too much from the crowd and her other teammates, etc., which may be getting to her head and performing her to not do as well, and at the end of the day to stop doing well as she would be normally in training, which is clear because of her. In training she has an 86% shooting rate. However, in the matches she only has a 32% rate, which suggests that she does let it get to her head. Optimal levels of arousal is where the performer is at the maximum arousal, which allows them to perform to their best of ability before taking a decline in their performance. If you want to perform to your best, you should be looking to perform at your optimal arousal, which is your maximum arousal, to get the best out of you.